one thing that I realize, especially when I talk to young, ambitious wannabe founders, something wrong in this like entrepreneurial society where we are glorifying the titles over the actual role or responsibility much more.
Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Živile, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Perception Paradox, and today we're launching and kicking off a new format which is going to be part of what Perception Paradox is becoming. And I have with me Rasa. We are right now sitting in Thailand Garden, a really well-known, renowned, both co-working space and also actually mainly educational I don't know, how would I call Thailand Garden? Institution?
A place, I guess.
A place.
Yeah. Well, technically it's an institution, but it sounds very institutional.
Yes, it sounds very institutional. That's kind of paradoxical because you do a lot of innovative stuff, so...
Yeah, I guess we are more of an academy, but yeah.
Yeah, that's actually great. So we're at Thailand Garden Academy in Copenhagen right now, experimenting, innovating, trying out new content. And it's my big honor to have Rasa here with me today and to just dig into a few questions more about life, startup scene, perception herself. She's been active player in the whole startup scene for many years now, right? When did you begin?
14, I guess. Yeah, that's quite a lot. Yes, I think it's around 14 years. And thank you very much for coming over and sharing this hot day with me.
We don't have AC here, so we're just literally boiling in this beautiful event space.
Yeah, but so it's been a journey of 14 years, and it's a crazy journey because like I very much believe like you have to go with the flow. Because we do take ourselves way too serious sometimes, and we try to strategize and make this great path of like where you want to go, what do you want to do. But to be honest, like I always believe that like if you know where you want to be in 5 years, so then why aren't you there yet? And I think that like if you want to stay true to yourself and be opportunistic and take all the opportunities, you can't really foresee what's going to happen in 5 years. And this is what happened with my 14 years journey. Like every year, sometimes every month would be a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
You learn a new thing, you take a new opportunity, and like this is what brought me to Thailand Garden.
Okay, wow. Did you always know what you want in 5 years? Or how was your journey? Because if I look back to my story, I never knew what I wanted in 5 years.
No, I think me neither. And I remember the day when I graduated from the high school, and I grew up in a system or a community where like everyone was following sort of the same framework. I think it comes a little bit from our like culture and like, you know, just the years we were growing up and a decade where you sort of had to go to the university, study, you know, get a great job, buy a house, buy a car, and then enroll and all the other elements to tick the boxes. So what I realized there when I was finishing the high school, I actually didn't know what I want to study. I wanted to do so many different things, but nothing would combine all those different things and package into one program or the degree or something. So like my biggest struggle was, how do I choose what do I do next? Because I have lots of different ideas and lots of different directions that I want to explore, but how can I explore them? Not limiting my own options by doing one specific thing for 4 or 5 years. And that's why I think in the first place, I didn't get into any university.
What did you do then?
I got into the college.
Okay.
That was awesome, actually, because it's shorter, it's structured and it's great, but it's like many more disciplines. It's like...
I think it's also more practical rather than theoretical academically.
Yeah. So I think like college was like great for me because I realized I do not have one specific vertical or very niche passion.
Yeah.
So I wanted to explore those different things, and college allows you to do so.
Yeah.
Because it's like learning by doing much more.
That's so cool. So you've been in the career for so long. So what would be your major misconceptions about life and paradoxes in general? What is our role in life here? Why are we here? Why do we need to get those 5-year goals? Or do we really need to have?
I love this question, by the way. I think that we need to think about it much more. This question should be something that goes into our yearly reflection, right? Most of the time, I believe we take ourselves way too serious. And this what puts us into a certain box in life where sometimes we lose ourselves and we lose that authentic point of view and experimental spirit that we all have, as kids, like growing up, and then all of a sudden everything just becomes way too serious, like expectations from others, expectations from parents, expectations from society, and then like uh, we like to follow others, right? We like to look at the different examples, and sometimes we follow others too much, and then we sort of believe that like one's path is everyone's path. And this is how I believe that we take ourselves way too serious and we forget to give ourselves some slack and actually zoom out from everything we are doing, look around, reassess the context, like where we are, how we feel, what opportunities do we have, what do we actually want, and then promptly shift the gear and like do some changes and have fun.
I think that's really important to have fun, actually.
Yeah.
If you're not having fun, maybe you're on the wrong path.
Yeah,
I always think so.
Yeah, and then we chase the things, we always have to chase. We need to have like better things, we need to have more things. Who says that? Like, how many things do we need, actually? So yeah, I think that this is my biggest misconception that I try to remind myself, like, do not take yourself too serious.
Do you have any tools or frameworks that helps you to remind yourself not to take too serious and to stay closer to your own calling?
I'm not sure I do have a specific tool. Like, I'm not very great with tools and routines. I'm trying to get better at that. I'm quite spontaneous, or of course, like my boyfriend does like a good part there. Like he's a daily reminder. I think it's also the environment that we build around ourselves and like the people that we have. I think that's the biggest reminder to me, because actually, like I always have some people like in the family, friends, and colleagues network, the professional network, that actually at the very right time they send that trigger that throws me out of a specific flow and makes me think differently. Yeah.
That's cool. And then when it comes to education, you've been involved in the education scene for many years. You're doing a lot of activities with Talent Garden. What do you see? Where are we heading to with the whole educational system and humanity? And is it ever going to be the same?
Okay, how controversial can we go here?
We can go as controversial as we want to.
So then, of course, and that's why it has to be like a regular lifelong journey that happens much more frequently. And it's no longer a phase, but rather a routine.
What do you think about such a huge daily consumption of knowledge lately? But I've noticed that so many people consume an enormous amount of knowledge, including like the podcasting came into the world, audiobooks. But it seems like we don't really find time to pause a bit and to see what can we apply, what can we learn from that. And it becomes another kind of, I see it as a challenge that we don't know anymore how to sort the information, and we don't know anymore how to keep our attention span when it comes to learning. Yeah. What's your take on that?
So my question is, how much information can we actually consume? So one thing, imagine one of the days you feel extremely lazy, maybe you feel a bit sick and you need to like just wind down and have a chill day. You open Netflix and then you start like binge watching all the different series, right? Just try to imagine yourself by the end of the day. How many of the different things, characters, most important events are you going to remember from everything you have watched throughout the day? You're going to remember some like highlights and have some flashbacks. The same happens with the information when we consume lots of information constantly and at the same time. We remember some of the highlights, but do we leave ourselves enough time to actually process that information? Because like learning, and that's another misconception, like learning is not only about consuming information, it's actually reflecting, trying to understand that information, like raising some questions, having a discussion, a peer conversation. Only then you can say that information turns into knowledge. So I think it doesn't matter how much information we consume or how amazing we are doing 6 hours of podcast in a row. It does not mean, like it's not a determinant factor that we learn something.
Less is more, right?
Less is more, yeah.
So talking about less is more, right now we have this glamorous life of startup founders and startup scene. Many people think that being a founder is kind of, it's a very sexy thing, I would say. What kind of paradoxical situations have you experienced within the startup scene and the founder role? What it's not, what it's not. What would be maybe key characteristics of performing successful founder and what would not be?
It's difficult to generalize because it depends, I guess, like on the bubble we
Mhm.
live in, right?
Yeah.
We all live in different bubbles. One thing that I realize when I talk to like young, ambitious wannabe founders, we did something wrong in this like entrepreneurial society where we are glorifying the titles over the actual role or responsibility much more. What I mean by that, I often meet people that want to have a role of a founder or a title rather than actually having that lifestyle of working, struggling, facing different challenges, building solutions. So I think that this is the biggest misconception that I see,
Mhm.
wanting to have a title, but not wanting to actually admit how much hard work, experimentation, and resilience and everything there is underneath of that. I think that like what differentiates good founders from great founders is it's not about how much you talk about what you do, but I think that the actions that you take at the end of the day, the business that you build, like the culture, the impact,
Mhm.
sustainability of it, this should be. I think that's some of the first things that founders think when they decide to build something. Like, what impact am I going to create
Mhm.
for my environment and for the people that actually put their time into building this with me? And how do I make it sustainable?
That's a big factor, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
Amazing. And if you would be right now, let's say, I don't know, building a startup, you want to pursue a venture backed direction, you have big problem you would like to solve, what would be your first few steps? Would you go somewhere outside and start pitching before you have MVP? Or would you do direct harsh outreach or maybe something else? Let's say you have a deep tech startup, you already have the technology, you need to test it, but you also need to fundraise.
yeah. Chicken and an egg, right? I think again, like you can't play by the book. Like one size doesn't fit all. Like what I would do, I very much believe that like first you need to know if the solution you're building is the solution that you love and idealize and you think it's working, or the market and potential customers think the same. So for me, the most important thing is like to do the validation that actually it is meaningful what you want to do. Like that business is viable and it makes sense and somebody is willing to pay. Only then with that idea validated, you don't have to have a product and you don't have to have like a full MVP.
Mhm.
You go and find the resources to build it. Because what I see very often happens, and I think it used to be in the startup ecosystem that way, that first you bootstrap a lot, but it takes so much time, and you know, like we live in the big world, and like maybe 10 other founders from different places around the world are building the same thing at the same time. So time is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So like validate very quickly, make sure that it's not like your passion project and your love idea that you're trying to push it and like fundraise for, but it actually is meaningful and somebody is willing to pay for it. And then get resources to turn that
Yeah.
idea into MVP ASAP. This is what I would do.
Okay, great. And final question. You always seem to be someone who is very good at spotting the ideas, spotting big problems to solve in different areas, markets, and actually succeed as well in that while developing or guiding someone towards those ideas. How do you do that? How do you spot those trends and opportunities in the market?
It's a good one.
Because you always seem like you're on top on everything. And you have like everyone on it 24 hours a day, you have plenty of responsibilities.
I think it's curiosity.
Hmm.
I think it's curiosity, and one of my biggest values is like awareness. I know it sounds odd to say that your value is awareness, but for me, it's extremely important to always be like conscious and aware of the context and what's happening in my environment, in the world, and etc. And I think that like staying curious and aware helps me to actually see those things around me, and then spot the opportunity. Like sometimes, like yeah, you also miss lots of things, right? But I don't know, like a little bit of a luck and intuition, I guess, as
Hmm.
well. Yeah.
Do you
And
think it's something you
curiosity.
can train?
Yeah, I think you can train that muscle for sure.
How can you do it?
Learning.
Learning.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So final question now, final. So for someone who is still looking for their why, what guidance would you have to share?
I'm also looking for my why. I think, to be honest, like most of us are looking for our whys. And one thing, I don't believe you can find an answer to your why or what and stick with that answer. Because if you do, it means you have stagnated. You have died.
Okay.
So I think that first of all, we need to be open to the idea, or I'm open to the idea that my why can change at any time throughout the life, and it comes in different phases, right? So I'm just open to the fact that it's a journey, it's evolving, and I need to like keep learning. It's a growth path. Don't take yourself too serious. That's the first advice. The second advice: keep experimenting, learn different things, like go on different journeys, talk to strangers. Like, we have so many colorful things in life around us, but again, sometimes when we are focusing on that one thing, taking everything too seriously and moving in that one flow, we forget to look around. So if you want to find your whys, because it's not a why,
Beautiful.
yeah, just keep looking around and taking all those different resources that you are getting from your environment.
Amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was the Rasa Strumskyte, directly from Thailand Garden, Copenhagen, in our new format of content coming out. And I think this turned out very philosophical about life. Stay curious, keep learning, and see you next week. Bye.